His Bible was tucked under his arm, his eyes sharp but kind. As if drawn by something stronger than will, Epolle walked closer. "Morning, Sister Epolle," Pastor Epolle greeted, his voice calm, carrying weight like the mountain breeze. Epolle looked away. "Morning, Pastor." He paused, studying her face. "There's a storm behind your eyes. But I know a river that can calm storms." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them back. "I don't think I'm worth that river," she muttered. "You don't have to be," he said. "The river comes to the thirsty, not the worthy." And with that, he handed her a small folded paper. "Read this when you're alone, and remember, no mistake is too big for God to rewrite." Okay. The next few days were quiet, but not peaceful. Nyasoso had a way of speaking through silence, the clanging of buckets at the tap, the grinding of maize at dawn, the whispers that floated between plantain leaves. Everyone seemed to know something had shifted in Epolle. Even Ma Emede watched her more carefully now, like one who suspects a fire burning behind closed doors. Epolle, too, was unsure. She hadn't returned to the mango tree spot since that strange encounter. But she couldn't forget the pastor's words, nor the warmth in his eyes when he'd said, "God still wants you." Every time she walked past the community square, she half expected to see him again, sitting with that Bible and smiling like he already knew her end from the beginning. However, the note he had given her stayed hidden in the fold of her wrapper all day. Epolle didn't dare open it in the presence of her mother, who had been watching her like a hawk since she returned from the stream the other day. By evening, the kitchen fire crackled under the pot of ekwang, and the smell of smoked fish filled the compound. But Epolle couldn't taste any of it. She waited until nightfall, when the cicadas began to chant and Pan Gomer Ejolara's snores echoed through the back veranda. She crept out into the small plantain grove behind the house, lit a piece of dry bamboo as a torch, and finally opened the note. It was just one verse, scribbled in bold strokes. "If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." The words stared back at her. Something cracked inside. She fell to her knees right there in the dirt, unsure if she was praying, crying, or both. For the first time since Banjem, she didn't feel dirty. Just broken and oddly seen. And from a distance, hidden among the shadows of the grove, someone watched. It was her grandfather, Pan Gomer Ejala. He had followed her not to scold, but to protect. His heart heavy, he whispered beneath his breath, "The gods of our fathers are silent, but the God of this girl is speaking." The next morning, Epolle rose early and found her grandfather seated by the fireplace, his walking stick resting across his lap like a scepter. The fire had gone cold, but he hadn't moved. He stared into the ashes as if they held stories only he could read. She greeted him quietly. "Morning, Pare." He didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed. Then slowly he spoke, "You know, child, when your grandmother died, I went to the mountain. Not for herbs, but for answers. I offered a goat to the ancestors. Poured palm oil till the ground was red. Waited for a dream. But nothing came." Epolle sat beside him, her heart pounding. She had never heard him speak like this. "They say the gods are angry," he continued. "But what if the gods are gone? Or maybe they never were." Silence. A cock crowed somewhere in the distance. "I saw you last night," he added, softer now. "Kneeling in the dirt, crying to a God I do not know. But I saw light on your face." Epohlias turned to him, surprised. He looked tired, not just in body, in soul too. If that God can hear you, Pangome said, then maybe he can hear an old man too. Epohlia's eyes welled up again. Not from guilt this time, but from hope. Ma Emide had always been the strong one. The woman who never cried, never complained, at least not where anyone could see. Since her husband died, it had been her and the fire, her and the farm, her and the children. People in Nyasoso whispered that she had man's strength. But even iron melts under enough heat. She had seen the change in her daughter. It wasn't just Epohlia's sudden silence, or the way she now avoided Measure's path like one avoids a snake's shadow. No, it was in her eyes. The same eyes Ma Emide once carried as a young girl, when she too had been lied to by someone who spoke sweetly under the palm tree. That evening, as the sky turned grey and the wind carried the scent of rain from Banjem, Marimade stood and watched her daughter and Ebud braid Ebane's hair under the Adam fruit tree. Something in her chest cracked a little. She didn't say much. Just wiped her hands, stepped forward and muttered, "We all carry secrets, Epolle. But secrets rot faster than fish. When you're ready, talk to me." Then she walked away, not out of coldness, but because she didn't trust her voice to stay strong. Behind her, Epolle paused, fingers frozen in Ebane's thick hair. Her breath caught. This was the first time in her life her mother had ever invited her to speak her heart. At the other end of Nyasoso, in the small tin-roofed building used for youth meetings, Pastor Epie was sweeping the dusty floor. He didn't like waiting for others to do God's work. A few folded benches leaned against the wall, and in the corner stood the old wooden pulpit which his late father had carved. As he worked, a deep groan escaped his chest, not of pain, but of burden. All week, his spirit had been restless. Every time he tried to pray, he saw the faces of youths, tired, broken, laughing on the outside but drowning within. He had especially seen Epohle, though he didn't understand why. He stood up, brushed off his palms, and picked up his worn Bible. It opened easily to a dog-eared page. "I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, your sons and your daughters shall prophesy." He whispered, "Lord, do it again even here. Even in this dusty hole, even in this forgotten village, let fire fall."
Tonight we gather for reckoning, healing, and homecoming.
Outside, the clouds darkened. A soft thunder rolled through the hills. The flyer arrived folded in four, tucked under the door like a silent knock. Epohle had found it the next morning, its corners damp with dew, its ink slightly smudged, but the message still clear. A night of reckoning, healing, hope, and homecoming this Sunday, 5 p.m. She stared at it like it was written in a language only her heart could understand. Part of her wanted to tear it up and toss it into the fire. Another part held onto it like a lifeline. That afternoon, while sweeping the front yard, she saw Mesue again. He rode by slowly on his motorbike, music playing loud, his eyes hidden behind dark shades. He didn't wave, just nodded slightly, but it was enough to shake her. "You still day watch for shadows," Ibana muttered from the kitchen window. "Even shadows disappear when the light comes." Epohle didn't answer. But that night, after everyone had gone to bed, she stood before her mirror, holding the flyer in one hand and her reflection in the other. She thought of the dream, the clay pot, the verse, the guilt, the hope. And finally she whispered, "God, if you still want me, I'll come."